Made it here. Oh, you see that? It's light out there. Once more, I don't have my hat, so it's bald-headed, fat guy Rob you get here. There we go. There's a little extra light. How's it going? YouTube only stream. I would say subscriber only stream, but I'm pretty sure 99% of the people that watch me on YouTube are subscribers at this point. Thanks to a bunch of people that watch me, including Jess Gerald, that are always generously donating subscriptions. Thank you, Jess Gerald, and everyone else that donates. Thank you so much. That money will be going to whatever the hell I want. Now, we're actually buying new furniture. I think I mentioned that the other day. So I think we finally picked out what we like. And that'll be nice. And we're trying to get it set up in our living room so there's more open space for the Hank man. And we have his room. He's now more comfortable playing in his room as well. So right now our living room's sort of a disaster for two reasons. Our couch is sort of old. It's a little gross. I don't know if I should talk about this, but I will. Because I had an older dog who passed away, Annabelle, there's a lot of like stuff about the couch that got dirty. Not like pee and poop necessarily, but she did have a wound that we had to continue to dress and stuff like that. So you ended up with, it just was stained up. I'll just put it that way. We tried our best. We had blankets and stuff that we put over the couch, but it's time. It's time for new furniture. And I don't know. I don't know what it's like for you all if you've ever had an old pet like that. But she did start to have trouble towards the end of her life going to the bathroom outside like she used to. She's very house trained for years and years. But particularly in the cold weather, being older, sometimes she would have little accidents on the floor, never on the couch. But so we're looking into getting new carpet and things of that nature and new furniture. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, if you donate to me, that money's all going to go to the Save the Ukrainian Fund or something like that. No, it's going for selfish reasons for me. I am looking in, though, and getting a new microphone. That's the next upgrade I want to get in my home office. And also, I finally got a second monitor. I just got to get an HDMI cord and then see if it'll hook up. Now, obviously, that doesn't affect tonight's stream, seeing as how, or today's, I guess it's not nighttime yet, seeing as how I'm at work. So why am I doing this stream at work today as opposed to at home? I was supposed to come in early, as I told people last night. However, through reasonings, I end up being here much later than I am supposed to be. So I'm off the clock, but waiting for my relief to come in. So here we are. And that's why I'm streaming here. So I figured, well, I'll do this, and then I won't do a stream later tonight. You got a $1,500 shotgun mic to sell. Doing a big discount for you. Got 3 shotgun mics. I have no idea what a shotgun mic is. But I would be happy to talk to you about it. DM me. I'm going to look at my options and see what I could do. Right now, I'm using a Samsung CO1U. I think it's pretty good, but someone messaged me. I've had several people message me offering to help of varying degrees. And I think one of my big problems is I'm a mover. I move in, I move out, I move in, move out. And so my mic's peaking. Plus, I raise my voice a lot. So I need a microphone that will hopefully deal with things like that. Aftershock asks, where is my debate with Pisco? No, it should still be up. The big 11.5-hour VOD from the other day, it's literally the last like 4 or 5 hours of that. In addition to that, I think Black Elk's cutting it into smaller clips. I'll ask him to just clip the entire section with just Pisco, and we'll get that up as his own thing. But the live stream should still be up. And then we put the first 20 minutes of it up today. So the first 20 minutes of my conversation with Pisco is up as its own YouTube video. There's another one that's already been clipped that I have to up. The way it works, Black Elk's the man. Like, what he does is he'll let me schedule things on my own. So he'll just clip stuff and put up all the cool thumbnails and everything that you see from my YouTube videos that are just the videos and not the live stream. And then I just put them up as I see fit. So usually I try to do one a day because Black Elks usually give me 5 or 6 videos a week. So usually I try to put up one a day. And if he puts out more than 5 a week, though, sometimes I'll put up 2 a day. So I put 2 up today. The one of me on Wick's panel and then the beginning of the Pisco debate. But we still have the whole conversation with tomfoolery needs to be put up. Probably the whole one of Pisco just as one whole one. And but I try to leave all the VODs up. I did remove 2 VODs this week for one not my fault really, and the other my fault for foul language. But I did give an apology to Brianna Wu that I didn't know if it would get me in trouble on YouTube or not. So we edited that section up and just put that whole video up without that last little 3 minutes of the video. So, but yeah, that's the answer to where that stuff goes. Generally speaking, I try to leave every VOD up. That may be a mistake. I know that Andrew Wilson doesn't do that. Now, I think, believe it or not, Andrew gets more haters than me. But stop apologizing. I think you'd be surprised by the apology. That's all. Let's just say there's a reason that I thought my apology to Brianna would get my channel in trouble. So don't jump to conclusions. You can get the whole thing on Rumble. It's over there. So if you want to go to Rumble, my video, not last night, but the night before, after the lactoid discussion, you can see my apology to Brianna Wu. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, the problem is, though, I've talked to Andrew about this. Why do you delete your VODs? He gets a lot of hate, and so people could mass report him. So he does better. He feels that it's worthwhile because he's trying to cultivate a live audience to do the show lives on YouTube, then remove the video, and then keep the videos up on other places like Rumble and other platforms. So that encourages people to subscribe to him on other channels. So if you want to catch any of this stuff that he's already done, you have to go over there to get him and to try to tune in live. Plus, it gets him out of the trouble of having to worry about people mass reporting him on places like YouTube, which is where his big audience is. So I understand both schools of thought. Personally, I would love to leave everything up. Rarely am I doing anything that I think could potentially run afoul of terms of service, but as you all know, that doesn't matter. YouTube can decide on a whim that they don't like something that you're saying, and so... But as is, I try to leave all of my stuff up. It's funny because, yeah, there you go, Randy, right. It's funny because, like, people accuse me all the time in the comments. When I debate a lefty, oftentimes what will happen is people from their audience, and I'm sure it's the same on the lefty I'm debating, people from their audience will come and leave comments on my videos, which is perfectly fine. And I'm sure people from my audience go and leave messages on their videos too. But I notice, sometimes I read them, and I notice that a lot of them are like, why didn't you put the whole debate up? Why didn't you put the whole debate up? And it's like, well, I did. It's still up. It's still on the channel. I never removed it. It's just, the whole point of editing videos is because most people don't want to watch a 4-hour debate. They consume it in like 10 to 20-minute chunks. And so if Black Elk says, hey, I thought this was a good 20-minute chunk, that's what we put up. We're not hiding the rest of the debate. I mean, we put up the shit with me on the Wick panel. The left thinks that that's a huge victory for them. I rage quit. That's what they're saying. I put it up. I didn't give a shit. You know, make your own mind up. So I'm not hiding anything. You know, the only exception would be things that I think are potential violations of terms of service. So if you're ever wondering, where is this debate? Where is this thing? Just go check out on the YouTube tab live streams, and it's probably still up there. And you can do the same on Rumble. Theoretically, they should be up on X as well. I'm always live streaming to X, and I never remove anything from there. So now sometimes, unfortunately, like if I'm taking calls or if I have something planned for a night and then shit goes crazy, like my supposed debate with Connor was supposed to be Monday night, and then it didn't come out, you might have a difficulty finding. Like if you were looking for the tomfoolery debate I did, the title of that live stream is not debating tomfoolery, so it might be difficult to find, but they're there. Anyways, I digress. What do we got going on politically? Yeah, that debate I had with Ruminate back in the day, Pondering Now, was very good. it's one of those things that when I was getting all those community strikes for YouTube talking about shit like COVID, I basically was just going through my channel and typing like COVID and deleting everything that mentioned it because I was getting mass reported for this shit. So, unfortunate. So anyways, this is my stream for the day. Apologies to, well, the Twitch audience, they ain't getting anything anyway since I'm suspended on Twitch. But the audience I have on X and Rumble and Kick, unfortunately won't be able to see this video. They'll have to come here to see it because I'm not at my home office. Anyways, let's talk about some of the political stuff. I think Kash Patel, I didn't get to talk about that much yesterday because we were talking to Ryan there. By the way, the last two conversations I had with Lactoid on Wednesday and then Ryan yesterday, both attorneys, I thought was very good. I enjoyed those a lot. So I didn't get to talk a lot about what I wanted to. So tonight we're going to talk a little about the Ukraine conflict, what's going on there. We'll talk about Kash Patel. I think it's an excellent pick, my favorite pick, getting in there. And we'll go from there. One thing I think is worth mentioning from the outset, I like Steve Bannon, and I give Steve Bannon a lot of credit. Steve Bannon went to prison for his beliefs, or jail, I guess, which is more than I've done. He was politically persecuted. He went to jail like a boss. I think that he's been one of the best minds around sort of the real issues that are tapping into the MAGA base. But that dude did do a Nazi salute yesterday. We can all agree with that, right? He did. Now, the lore is, for those that aren't paying attention, I don't think Bannon's a big Elon Musk fan. And so I think what he's doing is, the two possibilities are, well, I guess there's three possibilities. He's a Nazi. I don't think that's it. That he's mocking Elon, or that he's mocking the left because he knows they hyperventilate over that shit. It's dumb. I get it. As much as anyone, trolling the libs is fun. Great. But it's like, it's one thing for Cat Turd to do that. It's another thing for a guy that's supposed to be taking, like, as a serious political strategist. And so I think it's really dumb. And I think that it's needlessly inflaming tensions in a way that's not helpful. I don't think it's the end of the world, but that's my honest opinion about it. What is the benefit of doing that other than getting to see some lefties yell what they're going to do anyways? So, really stupid as far as I'm concerned. So, and to be clear, if it would come out, which I see no evidence is, that Elon was a Nazi or Bannon's a Nazi, yeah, I hate Nazis. So, I would hate them and not want them attached to the movement. There you go. Kash Patel. To me, this is the best cabinet pick that Trump had because it's in the same vein as RFK and Tulsi, which is that they have an axe to grind. RFK has an axe to grind with the pharmaceutical industry. Tulsi, who's been put on Do Not Fly list, etc., has an axe to grind. And Kash, who was targeted by people like Adam Schiff, as he was one of the people spearheading exposing the corrupt Russiagate investigation. I think he's the exact right man for the job. And so I'm very excited at the potential. Now, maybe Kash will chicken out, or he doesn't have the intelligence. Maybe they'll get distracted with other things. Getting the right people is only half the job. They then have to execute. And so we'll see where it goes from here. But I'm more optimistic than I would have been, had the director of the FBI been Chris Wray, remained Chris Wray, or someone else that's a career FBI guy. How many people will he fire? Hopefully a lot. Firing people will not be enough. There has to be transparency in the corruption and the political weaponization of the FBI, and then there has to be accountability, not just through people losing their job and losing their pensions if they engaged in corruption, but facing criminal consequences. If that does not occur, much like Trump's first term, the weaponization will be amplified the next time that Trump or a MAGA person is not in the executive branch. And so at this point, you've gone too far. You have to make them face consequences, or else they're going to come at you twice as hard. Next time, it won't just be charging someone like Trump, it'll be throwing them in prison that run against them. I would like to see more transparency on January 6th, particularly getting to the revelations that we have from Capitol Chief Sund as to why he was being stonewalled for trying to get the National Guard there. He believes by Sergeant-at-Arms under Nancy Pelosi and others in our military. What connections John Brennan had, former head of the CIA. And getting to the bottom of the pipe bomb situation. I don't care where that leads. I don't care if it leads to a Democrat, a Republican, a Trump supporter, whatever. That's serious. It's very serious. I have my suspicions, but I also think he needs to heavily focus on Russiagate and the disparate treatment in Crossfire Hurricane versus the investigation at Hillary mid-year exam. And he needs to investigate the Burisma scandal and, in general, the scandal of the Bidens selling influence around the world and then using their FBI to cover up for it. Also, there are a lot of whistleblowers. We know that Ziegler and Shapley in the IRS. There were also 3 FBI whistleblowers that testified in front of a congressional committee. And I bet there's other FBI whistleblowers. Some of them allege that they were retaliated against. Koch should make that immediately his message, that whistleblowers will be protected and will no longer be targeted. And I think if he fosters that sort of mentality, that you're likely to see that a lot of rank and file FBI agents that formerly were afraid to speak out because they knew that the general theme of the FBI and the leadership was to protect the institution will now start coming out and exposing some of that corruption. He needs to make that transparent to the American people so they could understand what was going on. Yes, I understand people like Connor, people like the lefties that I debate all the time. They'll say, it doesn't matter, this is corrupt. Koch Patel releasing this is corrupt, it's corrupt, it's corrupt. Trump was an evil man, we had to do it. But that's what the American people deserve to hear. And then there has to be investigations into corruptions and prosecutions if corruption is proven. Personally, I would like to see them get to the bottom of Joseph Mifsud and who he was really working for. I would love that. Now, will Koch Patel be able to do that? I sort of talked to this about Ryan yesterday, and I mentioned it to Lactoid as well. Think for a second, if you really believe that things are as corrupt as I do, the same with Doge. If you believe that people are embezzling billions of dollars into a slush fund, what do you think the people that are beneficiaries of that and that have committed crimes would be willing to do to keep that covered up? We've already had 2 assassination attempts against Trump. We had things like the George Floyd riots that we were told were mostly peaceful. So don't be surprised if things don't go as swimmingly as you would guess. Even if it's not a corrupt, oh, they're trying to cover themselves by doing X, Y, and Z. There's going to be lawfare. And things occur. Natural disasters occur. Terror attacks occur. Will the same priorities persist? I hope so. I hope that Trump, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, the people at Doge, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard realize that it is a priority to root out this waste and corruption in all of these agencies. Because if you don't, it will get worse and metastasize even further. And they are in a unique position. Trump won once, they didn't accomplish it. Then, miracle of miracles, he won a second time. There is no guaranteed that a MAGA person wins in 2028. Now is the time. So I hope that they stay focused on that. As for Ukraine, Trump's basically calling out Zelensky. Things are getting heated. I don't particularly like it. I'll tell you why. I think that the central focus here, more than petty grievances, legitimate concerns of corruption, embezzlement of Zelensky or of the politicians from the United States that are facilitating that, to me, what I'm most concerned with right now is stopping funding this and trying to save as many lives as possible, particularly Ukrainians, but also Russian lives, or anyone else affected. I think my preference would be to try to remain as neutral as possible with your public statements. Now, what you're doing behind the scenes is a different thing entirely. I do not mind the sort of placations verbally to Vladimir Putin. I don't mind that. I think Putin is a strong man. I think that Trump, I've said this many times, when negotiating with people like that, I think oftentimes saying, yeah, he's a good guy, he's a real guy, strong leader, very smart guy. But then you're aggressive with your tactic, but we are going to send javelins to Ukraine. So in other words, the policies are aggressive and antithetical to Putin, but the lip service is like, oh, I think sometimes that could be effective. But I don't know that being as antagonistic to Zelensky would be my preference. Having said that, I don't like Zelensky. And I'm not as shrewd of a negotiator as Donald Trump. So what the hell do I know? I'm just giving you my honest opinion. So maybe Trump's more masterful in this than me. It does follow a theme with Trump, where he is harsh on our allies rhetorically and less harsh on our enemies, but policy-wise, he was still harsh on our enemies. And I think that that's actually a positive strategy because we've been taken advantage of by our allies. And so I don't think this is really out of left field. Negotiating tactics aside, the idea of doing whatever we can to end this conflict and to stop sending money is the right approach, and I'm proud that Trump's pursuing that. That is the right way to go about this. Now, you might be saying, but technically, Russia's not the aggressor. I disagree. I think Russia's the aggressor, but I do think it's a more complicated story than just they're Putin's Sauron and they're the orcs. They're just evil and the other side's just good. It's much more complicated. There was provocation after provocation after provocation towards Russia. Doesn't justify, in my opinion, the invasion, but nonetheless. And certainly there's all sorts of corrupt things that have occurred in Ukraine. I actually feel terrible for the people of Ukraine. I really do. I feel that they were in the Soviet Union, and then since the Soviet Union's collapsed, they've probably gone through one of three phases, sort of trying to pick up the pieces with their government, sort of it being pretty scattershot, to being a vassal of Russia, to being a vassal of the United States. That sucks. It sucks to have a government that you know is a puppet of another country's government. It's got to suck. You probably just want someone that's looking out for you and trying to represent your wishes and the people of your country. Not that's like, hey, I know you guys have a concern. Let me run it by my boss, Putin, or let me run it by my boss, Obama. That sucks. So I do feel bad. And even Zelensky, I sort of feel bad for. Now, I'm going to throw some conjecture out here. I can't prove all of this, but I am going to throw some conjecture. I think that I've made the case quite articulately of the corruption of the Bidens in Burisma, etc. I haven't talked about this for a long time, but you remember the Financial Times article in when was this? October of 2016? That acknowledged that Ukraine was interfering in our 2016 election. It was talking about some of their parliamentarians led by this man Sergei Lyshenko. I think his first name was Sergei. And they were talking about how Trump was too pro-Putin, and so they're interfering to try to help Hillary win. What'd you think was going to happen then if Trump won? What'd you think? You try to sabotage Trump? How would that work? Look at it in the inverse. If the United States interferes in an election in UK, right? Or let's say Canada, right? Because I know the characters a little bit. And what's his name? Polivier's going against Trudeau, hypothetically. And we put all this money in backing Trudeau and sabotaging Polivier. and then Trudeau loses, what do you think the government's going to think? They're just going to be like, cool, sweet. No. That's the risk you run when you interfere in other countries' elections. And if you're objectively a weaker country, in this case Ukraine, what do you think's going to happen? You're basically relying on the United States for your existence. So you're going to interfere in the election? And they basically did it again in 2024. Zelensky there, and month out from the election, is touring weapons manufacturers in Pennsylvania with Pennsylvania Governor, Democrat Josh Shapiro. They're talking favor of Kamala. And then you have the famous phone call of Trump with Zelensky. Trump rightfully is pissed about $1 billion of your tax dollars being used to guarantee a loan contingent upon Ukraine firing a prosecutor that's looking into the company that the VP son and then candidate against Trump's son was on the board of directors of. Trump had every right to be pissed about this. Why are you seemingly bowing to and covering and helping our opponent? Or my opponent. So I understand Trump. If I'm Trump personally, I'm like, fuck Zelensky. Fuck him. I would have the higher priority of, but we want to end this conflict. And then that's not to even get to the Maidan revolution and what the Ukrainian government may know, or what Trump may know about the U.S. involvement. For a one moment, assume for a second, even if you don't believe this, but imagine that yes, the United States did cause a color revolution in 2014 to oust the then president Yanukovych, who was basically a vassal of Russia, and install Poroshenko, who was a vassal of the United States. Russia would rightfully be pissed in that scenario, correct? And so if you know that and you're negotiating and Russia's like, yeah, we need assurances that you're not going to do this shit again, then the picture's not as simple as, but Russia bad. Russia's going to say things like, you can't have NATO. No, we refuse to accept that. We're not going to let Ukraine in NATO. No, because we see already how you're interfering. The last thing I'll say is that if I had my druthers, not only would I have been very reticent to ever send Ukraine money in the first place, but certainly when the American citizen Gonzalo Lira was imprisoned and then died in prison in Ukraine for the crime of free speech, they would not have received another dime until they explained themselves and offered compensation. That is yet to have been forthcoming. So that's it. My heart goes out to the Ukrainian people. I think stopping the funding will be beneficial to them to stop this meat grinder of a war that they have no way of winning, that they're just sacrificing so many young men to, that now they're conscripting thousands of thousands and forcing them to fight so that they could go to the meat grinder. But beyond that, I'm sorry, Americans come first. And your country imprisoned one of our citizens for the crime of a core value of the United States, which is free speech. We've gone through this. How many times have I debated people that said, nuh-uh, he was arrested for being a spy for Russia? Really, show me the indicting documents. Oh, it doesn't say that? It basically says in the indicting documents that he was arrested for insulting Ukrainian troops. So, we're allowed to do that. And for criticism, spreading falsehoods. We're also allowed to do that. But Rob, it's not the United States, it's Ukraine. Right. They rely on our money for their existence. Let me give you an example. Let's say I don't want people smoking cigarettes in my house. And let's say behind my house is an apartment that I also own. And Aftershock, who I don't know if he's still watching, Aftershock at his home says, I like to smoke, and people are allowed to smoke. But for whatever reason, Aftershock loses his apartment, his home. And I say, hey, Aftershock, till you get in your feet, man, you can come live in the apartment behind my house. Rent free. He says, sweet. I say, there's only a few conditions. You got to keep the house kind of clean, no wild parties, and no smoking. Okay? Aftershock comes and he starts chain smoking. The argument, but Aftershock's allowed to do that in his property, is irrelevant. I'm paying the bills. So it's my rules. I guess an even more apples to apples scenario would be I allow smoking and Aftershock doesn't. So Aftershock moves into the apartment and I'm over there hanging out one day smoking. And Aftershock says, you can't do that here. Fuck you, I pay the bills. You don't like it, leave. Ladies and gentlemen, we finally found it, the dumbest analogy ever. We don't have to listen to Ukraine because we pay for them. If they decide that they're going to arrest our people for crimes that aren't crimes in the United States, then we say, fair enough, we're not giving you any more money. If you come to my house and tell me how shit is and what you're going to do, this, that, and the other, fuck you, you're out. We're not paying for you anymore then. Simple enough? It's that simple. But Rob, Russians have locked up American citizens. True. And I've advocated for getting those citizens home, number one. And secondly, we don't have leverage like we do over our allies. That's right. That is the best way to treat our allies. You do not get to imprison our people for things that we do not think are remotely crimes. If you do, we will no longer fund you. How far can we go with this? Captain, what if they tortured Gonzalo Lira for the crime of praying, of reading a Christian Bible? You're fine with that, right? Well, Orthodox, they outlawed orthodoxy. If they did that, would you be cool with that? They tortured him live on television, and you would say, that's right, they do have different laws. That's right. And if they're going to be antithetical to the laws of America, and they're going to brutalize American citizens, then we have the right to say no more money for you. Simple. I will guarantee you, Captain was the same guy that was like, oh my God, they're torturing Brittany Griner. All she did was smoke weed. That's all she did. He was killed. He was imprisoned. Do you think being in prison isn't brutal? He died in prison of what they're claiming is pneumonia. Is someone really your ally if they lock up your citizens, if they criticize them? We don't know if he was killed or he died. He was falsely imprisoned and then died in prison. Trump threatened to basically unleash hell on the Palestinians and Hamas if they didn't release hostages. Fair enough. There's Captain, he's so genius. So just to be clear, if I beat someone until they're internally bleeding, I would say I didn't kill them. They died of internal bleeding. If I put someone in despicable conditions and falsely imprison them, and then they die of pneumonia, oh, you didn't kill them, the pneumonia did. Ukraine is relying on the United States for its existence. It imprisons someone for a core value of the United States, free speech. That person died in prison. No more money. You could, oh, that's the dumb analogy. You're giving it to Putin. Guess what? Our guy won. And we're going to shut off the fucking valve to Ukraine. So maybe dumbasses like you shouldn't have been cheering it on, and you should have instead been doing like I was doing and saying, whoa, Ukraine should answer for this and make amends. But you didn't. So now you lose. So good work. If I was on Trump's team or if I was president, they wouldn't have got a fucking dime from day one I stepped in office. It's a weak take on geopolitics. I don't give a fuck. I don't care what you people think. I understand your take is if we think it's against one of our enemies, then we should fund our allies even if they brutalize and torture our citizens. I disagree. I don't think that someone's really our ally if they're imprisoning citizens for free speech. I don't think that makes them an ally. I don't give a shit what you all say. That's how I would run things if I was president. That is the right way to do it. When it's our enemy that imprisons someone, then we negotiate or we attack to get back that American citizen. When it's our ally, we say, we're no longer funding you. And I'll bet if Joe Biden had said that, they would have said, we're sorry, Mr. President. Let us explain to you what happened and apologize and make amends. But instead, what did we have? Remember the transsexual speaker there for Ukraine that proudly talked about the list of Americans that we have? That bragged about when they were arrested Lira? That's what we got. Fuck them. Sorry. But Rob, Gonzalo Lira was a bad person. Maybe. I don't give a shit. Brittany Griner doesn't seem like a good person. I was in favor of us using our government to get her back as well. That's the issue. They had every right to say, we don't want this guy here, and shipped him out. But remember, they actually arrested Lira as he was trying to flee the country. Wouldn't that have solved the problem once he's outside of the country? Or is the argument that they would also arrest someone like me if I was critical of the Ukrainian government? I'm here in the United States, but let's say that I wanted to go see Dylan Burns while he's filming in Ukraine. He said, Rob, come over here. Let me show you the front line. Maybe it'll change your mind. I say, sure. So I'm making videos here critical of Ukraine. I fly to Ukraine so I can see with my own eyes. Do I also get imprisoned for free speech in the United States? Because the argument is, well, you'd go home and still be critical of us and that would harm us? If the argument's, well, no, it's only speech in the country that they're worried about, then why wouldn't they just let Lira leave? Why not? I'll tell you why. Because they were making an example out of him. That's what was going on. And you ain't going to fucking make an example out of American citizens like that when you're relying on America for your existence. Period. Now, if he committed some sort of heinous crime, he molested someone there in a serious way, he murdered someone, that's different. But what was his crime? What was his crime again? Oh, free speech. But hey, it doesn't matter. If the United States stopped sending weapons, Zelensky said he already talked to Europe and they'd send it. And good news to all of you that are arguing about this, they're still taking foreign fighters. Head on over. And no one's stopping you from opening your pocketbook and sending your money to Ukraine. I wish you well. I hope Ukraine wins the war. Great, head on over. Send your money. Right? You care more about Ukraine than American citizens. Well, if they decide to lock up American citizens for free speech, that's okay, because those Americans were saying things that we don't like anyways. And that's the truth. I'd love to see a Venn diagram of the people that are like, oh, Gonzalo Lira, who gives a shit, he got what was coming to him. Who also wanted Jews censored if you criticized lockdowns or vaccine mandates. I'll bet it's damn near a direct circle. That's the truth. In these people's hearts, they don't believe in free speech. So who gives a shit if Germany arrests people for free speech? Who gives a shit if Ukraine arrests people for free speech, even American citizens? So he was saying things we didn't like. So what? Same people. Oh my God, Brittany Griner got arrested in Russia for weed? Russia's a fascist authoritarian dictatorship. We need to get her back at all costs. We'll even give up the merchant of death. Gonzalo Lira gets arrested for free speech? Well, good for him. Good for Ukraine. We're not even going to say, hey, you have to explain yourself or we're not going to send you money. Nope. That'd be bad geopolitics. Fuck these people. Rest in peace, Gonzalo Lira. As someone who clearly was critical of Ukraine in this war, maybe it brings some comfort to him wherever he is now to know that maybe in some small part, the illegitimate imprisonment of him may have led to stopping the meat grinder that is that conflict. I don't give a shit what the guy did in his life. I don't give a shit if his YouTube channel sucked. None of that matters to me. He was an American. He was arrested for free speech by our ally. He died in prison. You're an idiot if you're Zelensky and you're purposely antagonizing the very country that you're relying on for your existence. That's my thoughts on the Ukraine conflict. So, looks like good news on the horizon. We'll see. Anything could change. But hopefully the negotiations work out and the meat grinder stops. If Europe, Starmer said in the UK that they'll send troops, good luck. Also, we should pull out of NATO. First thing I would do is say, yeah, either Germany's out or we're out. We're not going to be in a military alliance with people that arrest their own citizens for free speech. Nope. Sorry. And I would look at every country in NATO that does that. The UK. We don't need that. Sorry. We'll trade with you, but we're not going to be in a military alliance with you. If UK wants to send troops and we're in a military alliance with UK, and then those troops get attacked by Russia, so now what? We're militaristically bound to defend the UK? That's on you guys. You want to send boots on the ground? Have at her. We're going to stay out of it. By the way, it should be the same shit in Gaza. And I've criticized Trump for that. The idea that we'll put any boots on the ground in Israel-Palestine is absurd and should be rejected. Enough. Rob Roy. I love the movie Rob Roy. What else do we have to talk about this fine day? Anything else people want to talk about? You know, I think it's funny. I mentioned this on X. What's the left's big arguments right now? I mean, yeah, they're crying about Ukraine. Okay. Plane wrecks that, from the charts I'm looking at, there were more plane crashes in Biden's first 2 months in office than Trump's. Don't remember hearing about that. There's a lot of Destiny Hassan drama going on, right? They talk about that a lot, at least on the online space. Meanwhile, the stuff that they claim to focus on, well, immigration, we got to stop the deportations. They're happening. Well, we got to stop Trump's confirmation picks. They all happen. Well, we got to stop Trump doing these audits and stuff. Seems like that's happening. The only real victory that the left's getting is thanks to the establishment Republicans in the Senate that wouldn't vote for Rand Paul's amendment guaranteeing to reduce spending. $5,000 check is stupid. I think that's a bad idea, but whatever. It's funny to watch the left that runs on, we're going to send you a $1,600 check, we're going to do this and that, and Republicans are against it because they don't want the American people getting money. Now being like, we can't send that money, it'll cause inflation. No shit. Where do you think I was years ago when the Democrats were promising to send out even more money to people? So it is funny to watch them argue against their usual position. Connor, someone said Connor. Yeah, I mean, I talked about Connor a little last night. I thought it was funny that he waited to speak last, then brought up his service and stuff like some tough guy. Whatever, it doesn't bother me. But it's funny how, like, to the left, it's like, yeah, that was an own. So what do we got the owns I had this week? I got owned by that soy pill guy because he faked a tweet. Oh, Rob, you thought that us Democrats would ever call out corruption on the Democrat side? Joke's on you. Cool own. Then you had Wick, who wouldn't even let me explain myself and just talked over and said that I was a coward and a traitor to the country and talked over me because he's the moderator in his show. Big own there. Great. And then Connor with this big own. He got my he got both of our Twitch channels banned by yelling homophobic slurs and he called me fat. Whoa. And he said I didn't serve. Whoa. Of course, he waited to say all that until the last, when he got to speak last, and then immediately left. Great own. You did it. But hey, can you blame these lefties at this point? They need something to hang their hat on. It's just fat L after fat L after fat L. So they gotta have something, I guess. Good job. The Destiny drama. I guess I talked about it previously. So, court documents dropped. I briefly talked about this with Lactoid. It was just a filing. It hasn't been certified by the court or anything from Pixie. If you're not following this, long story short, Destiny's accused of releasing sex tapes with him with multiple partners to a third party who then allegedly got hacked. That was released publicly on various websites, including X. One of the people in those videos, Pixie, claims Destiny did not have consent to release that. Another woman named Cherry claims she's now since been made aware that she was audio recorded in a relationship with Destiny, and then that was released without our consent. Documents filed. The documents look pretty damning in that there's new accusations in there that I was unaware of, that there were supposedly other people that contacted Pixie that said that they were victims of some sort of this, or they had received videos. Destiny's response is basically Pixie at one point sent him a video of her having sex with someone else, and that he had no evidence that that party gave consent. So in other words, and so that's where we're at with this story. I think that I gave the best defense of Destiny. Now listen, you think I've been having a bad week? I'm having a great week. I had the week off work. I'm in work now, but I had the week off work. I got to wreck a bunch of lefties. Fucking great. They're resorted to just making jokes about my appearance or photoshopping shit. Cool. That's great by me. I don't care. And I understand that the left needs to celebrate that shit because they can't stand on fucking, any ideas or arguments. So, big win for me. On one hand, Kosh Patel's there. We're going to stop funding the Ukrainian conflict. Doge is kicking ass. But on the other hand, Connor called Rob fat. I got it. The left's, they're killing it. I had made the claim. I didn't understand. Like, I'll talk a lot of shit on Destiny in this situation. I defended Destiny originally when he was a victim of his shit being released publicly. That does make him a victim. I had a bunch of pushback that said, no, it doesn't make him a victim if he committed, albeit to a lesser degree, the same crime, which is releasing videos without other people's consent. I said, well, you'd still be a victim of the greater crime, but yes, you're right. It's detrimental. Now the same people that said that are giving me shit or talking shit on Pixie. Well, just because Pixie may have done the same thing Destiny did doesn't mean that she's not a victim and that Destiny's exonerated. Well, yeah, but isn't that the same argument you had previously when I said Destiny's still a victim? You might not give a shit. I don't give a shit. If he did the same thing to other people, I don't give a shit. But that doesn't mean he's not a victim of that crime, of the mass release. Anyways, I had said that Destiny's defense, and I don't understand this, like, because I'm a third party, I don't really give a shit. I don't give a shit. He blacklisted me, so I wasn't going to interact with him anymore anyways. So it's not like I stood to gain by him maintaining his channel. So when I was like, yeah, this fucking sucks for Destiny, then when you found out it appeared that he did some shitty stuff, I said, well, there's always room. We'll see. I was more interested in his orbiters and what their reaction was. And yeah, maybe you could accuse me of implying Destiny's guilt when attacking like his orbiter, saying that you're sweeping for him like I did with Connor or Pisco. By the way, I don't think Pisco's really sweeping for him. Pisco's calling me a pussy and this, that, and the other, so I'm going to come at him, whatever. But he deserves his day in court, and I've routinely said we have to discuss how bad this is. I don't think you're a bad person if you still want to debate Destiny, if you still want to watch his show. There's levels to the shit anyways. But I did, when I was talking to Darius and Dan, I thought I made, of all the people that are still standing behind Destiny, someone like me that is not standing behind Destiny, I thought I gave the best possible defense. The most damning thing for Destiny's position right now is his own messages to Pixie, where he basically admits guilt. He's like, yeah, there's no excuse for what I did. And I was like, well, here's a potential defense. He says, I knew she was tore up by it. I felt bad. I even heard she was suicidal. So of course I'm going to be conciliatory. But in reality, I assumed that I had consent. Because while the sexual act was occurring, I mentioned that I send these videos to other people all the time. And she was like, that's cool, film. Now, that's not exactly what Destiny's defense is now, but his defense is akin to, she sent me this shit, so I assumed that she's cool with it. She sent me a video of her with another partner, and so I assumed that she was into that, so I sent our video. Now, that's not the best defense. It's not, but it is a defense. And so I think of everyone I heard talk about this, I was the closest to what Destiny was ultimately going to say. Is it technically true that even if Pixie did exactly what she's accusing Destiny of, that doesn't mean that Destiny's not guilty of this? Yeah, that's true. Is it worse for Destiny to have done it in that he was older, he had talked frequently about that type of behavior is immoral, he claimed to be this guru of consent? Yeah. That makes that, he's far bigger. But if Pixie did this as well without a person's consent, she's a fucking scumbag too. And much like I don't really feel bad for Destiny, even though I still think he's a victim of all of his shit being released on Kiwi Farms and X, I don't feel as bad for Pixie if she released these sorts of videos without people's consent. Now, her defense is, I had this guy's consent. So it's not, it puts Destiny in, like, if you viewed it as on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being the scummiest dirtbag ever and 0 being, me, totally cool person, let's say you think Destiny was at a 90 with these leaks. Maybe if you think that Pixie did it as well, that lowers Destiny to like an 89, an 88. Still fucking terrible scumbag. He didn't say, as far as I've seen, no, I had her consent. So, One other thing I'll say about this is, if Pixie's filing is true, or even someone could correct me if I'm wrong. I've seen the number 17 million being bandied about as the potential damages that she's seeking. Is that correct? I mean, it's in the millions, right? I thought I heard 17 million, though I don't know if that's an exact number, or clearly if Destiny is found 15 million, okay. If Destiny's found guilty, a jury will assess the damages. Just because she's requesting 15 million, she may only get 10,000, or she might get more than 15 million possibly. I think Destiny's position right now is kind of dumb, where he's basically accusing her of being a money grubber. Because to me, if I'm a jurist on that civil trial and I find Destiny guilty, and now we're in the penalty phase, and I'm like, well, what were her damages? Right? There's going to be punitive, and punitive's like, so damages would be like, you smash my car. So the damages to me would be, how much am I out monetarily because of my car? It's a $10,000 car, so you owe me $10,000. But then punitive is punishment on top of that to dissuade you from doing that sort of thing in the future. So we want Aftershock to stop smashing cars. So you're going to make him pay Rob's $10,000 plus $5,000 for Rob's attorney fees plus another $50,000 as punishment. That's the idea. So those are the sort of things that jurors will. The problem is when it comes to damages, when you're talking about damages to reputation, it's not as simple as damage to property, which is you could find a value of that property. Damage to reputation could be much more difficult to personify. Or personify, I guess that's not the word, to put a quantitative number on. And so, if that's part of the case, damage to reputation, Destiny doing videos and putting together manifestos, it's like, she's money grubbing, she's a terrible person. Part of her argument is, I'm being brigaded by a bunch of people that think I'm a shitty person now. So he may be harming his chances at having a lenient penalty phase if he's found guilty. Now, I don't think him saying, for me, as a jurist, I don't think that it would affect me to his guilt or not. Either he's guilty or he's not. Him saying, she's just suing me for money, doesn't really speak to the guilt. But she's faking her suicide, this, that, and the other. She just wants money. Anything you're saying, I don't know if Destiny said all those things. This is just rumors I'm hearing that's been implied. I think that's a mistake. I understand wanting to defend your reputation, but I don't know. The last thing I'll say about it is, I hate to say it, there are still victims in this story. If Cherry's accusations are true, Cherry's a victim. That she was recorded without her knowledge. That's a victim. Pixie's accusations are true, she's a victim. Destiny, in my mind, is still a victim, even if you don't give a shit about him. Unless he is the one who released all of this to Kiwi Farms and to X, which I don't believe, then someone else released them, even if he sent the material to that person. And it probably sucks to have a video of you blowing some dude out there for the world to see. But the whole circle, I'm sorry, excuse the language, seem to be a bunch of degenerate fucks. I don't know what else to say. And it's just, there's so many fucking, this cult of personality that comes with this online shit. Now look, someday I'm going to be found guilty of some fucked up crime, right? They're going to get me for fucking, poaching deer from my neighbor's property and then gutting the deer and wearing it around as a suit, naked, running around town at night, or some fucked up shit, right? And you're going to be like, ha, I'm here to tell you right now, I ain't no saint. I've never done the crazy fucking shit that's being alleged here. I've never committed any sex crimes, any of that shit. I've done drugs, I've drank. what's weird about that? I'm not perfect, you know? And weird sexual perversion stuff that doesn't rise to the level of legality, you oftentimes don't hear me talk about that. Consenting adults are consenting adults. I don't give a shit. But in this case, I do think it's worth mentioning, like, it's just really fucked up shit that I can't relate to. Like, to my knowledge, I have never met one of my fans ever in real life, other than the people that already knew me before I started a show. Or maybe people that met me because I was running for Congress. And then are like, oh, and I watch your show. Let alone having sex with them. I have never cheated on my wife. We've been together, we've been married 10 years, we've been together 14 years. I've never cheated on her. Ever. And, believe it or not, seeing as how, in the words of Connor and his wife, that I'm a fat fuck, I actually was not that promiscuous even before I was with my wife. I think it's so childish, they talk about this term, body count. I was not someone that had a lot of intimate partners. Just, that's the truth. And I'm actually kind of proud of that. I'm kind of happy about that. It was just, maybe it was that I had low self-esteem. That's probably part of it. But I think a big part of it was that I really was more interested in finding someone that I truly loved and wanted to spend my life with than having a bunch of sexual partners. And honestly, even though there were some people in my social group that were the type of people that were going out and sleeping with a lot of people, both men and women I knew that were friends with people like this, most of the people in my friend circle were pretty monogamous and weren't big going out and trying to hook up with a bunch of people. That's just the way it is. And so the whole thing to me, it's like, as a 40-year-old guy, which already makes me old for this space, I look at a lot, even without the weird sex shit, I look at a lot of these bigger, particularly left-wing streamers with younger audiences, and I can't relate. The fancy term people use, parasocial relationships. For me, it's like this community where your friend group is all of these people that you've met online. There's nothing wrong with making friends online in a community that's centered around a person. Maybe it's a political streamer. Maybe it's a video game streamer. Maybe it's a chess player. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe it's a sports team that you're all watching. But I think that people are too chronically online with this shit, and maybe they don't have as many real-life relationships, and I don't mean sexual relationships, I mean like friends and people that they're hanging out with in real life. And so I just... I mentioned this to Lactoid. I was like, I feel like there are people. I think the Destiny's audience is pretty rabid, and they're probably young, and they're passionate about the politics shit, and that could be scary. I think there are stories that people have that have interacted with Destiny that feel like they've been brigaded or that their audience has been incredibly harsh to them. I get some of that. I've gotten the odd, you should kill yourself, or if I ever see you, I'll kill you type thing. Whatever. But I understand how to a lot of people it's been worse than that, maybe, accused anyways, and or how that could affect other people more. I have more hair than you thought. Yeah, okay, it's going. Within the next 5 years, this section will be gone. I do like wearing a hat though, but take that out of the equation for a minute. Despite the fact I think that maybe they're a little too rabid and they're immature and their politics suck if they agree with Destiny, I do feel bad that if they feel betrayed, and where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? If Destiny falls off, or if they do something that they think like, well, we can't co-sign to this anymore, do they find another streamer? Look, like him or dislike him, Destiny brought something that was pretty unique. His personality and the sort of content that he provided isn't really replicated by many of these other people. Like, who are you going to tune into? Pisco? I prefer listening to Pisco than Destiny. But he ain't going to draw the numbers that Destiny did. Not with the same crowd, because that crowd's into shit that Pisco's not. Like, I don't see Pisco like being big into video games or drama content and shit like that. So where are they going to go? And it would be like, you know, in my terms, as a fucking 40-year-old man, I'm a member of our local Eagles club. It would be like if the Eagles club shut down. It's like, oh shit, I'm friends with all those people. Now where are we going to hang out? And yeah, at first you might be like, well, we'll go down the street to a different place. But one by one, people are going to be like, this isn't the same. So, but I will, having said all of that, I will say, let the fucking degenerates argue about this until the end of time, as far as I'm concerned. Are there any good people in this story? If all of the accusations are true, no. I mean, I feel bad for Lonerbox that Pixie's his girlfriend and Destiny was his friend. I guess I feel bad for Pixie's dad. If Pixie's allegations and claims are true, that she never did what she's being accused of, then I feel bad. I feel bad for Cherry if that's true. But in general, it's a bunch of people that put themselves in a weird, fucked up situation. You're banging some streamer dude that you know is married, and you're filming it? I'm not saying that that means you deserve this shit to happen, but you put yourself in a very scummy position. And if you're sending sex tapes out as well, even if you have consent, Grid, thanks so much for the $20, man. He says, afternoon, Rob. Been live streaming lately. Would love to have me on whenever I have time. I'm working with Modern Day Debates for DebateCon 6. Love to see you there. Yeah, if they invite me. Obviously, I would do your show. Normally, I'm available Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights. So hit me up. We'll set a date up. That's totally cool. DebateCon, if they invite me and I have time off work, I would love to go, given the right topic. Like, I'm not going to go debate Flat Earth or some shit. I would go debate Flat Earth, but only if I was doing a serious debate on top of that. I'm not going to go to Detroit or Chicago or wherever the hell they are for just something like that and take time off work. But you see what I'm saying. But yeah, that's it with the Destiny shit, you know. Let the fuckers argue. We're going to keep racking up W's. Yeah, I think it's cool Grid's working on DebateCon with him. I think that's really cool. And I think it's cool that Modern Day Debates are doing that. Send me up there to debate Andrew Wilson on Christian nationalism. We'll yell at each other. We'll put on a good show. I'd rather debate Lefty, so. But yeah, that's it, you know. And then as far as, yeah, Fabian would be good in the show as well. I agree. I bet he'd be, I don't know where Fabian lives at, but I bet he'd be willing to make a trip if he had the right opponent and the right topic. Nashville's a beautiful city. It's a trip for me, though. But, yeah, I mean, not much else going on for me, so you'll probably not hear from me again until probably next Wednesday. I'll try to do a video if I get downtime at work Monday or Tuesday. But tomorrow I have a kid's birthday party to go to. And then I come into work. So once I'm at work, you know how it is. I can't set a schedule for streaming because sometimes I work all night. If there's an emergency, if we have a fire drill, I can't stream through that. If client's sleeping or something, that's a little different. So I think McConnell voted yes on cash. But we keep racking up W's. The left's talking about drama. Of course, we'll chime in and talk about the drama just because it's, I guess, it's characters you know, they're, so, but, I don't think there's a second McConnell in the Senate. I could be wrong. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Mitch voted yes. Because had he voted no, it would have been 50-50. And then Vance would have been the tie-breaking vote. So I knew that Murkowski, Collins, and him, all three had to vote no for it to require J.D. Vance. And McConnell voted yes, so it was a 51-49. Announced that he's not going to run again. There's talk of Thomas Massie running for that seat, which would mean that the senator, if he would win, the senators from Kentucky would be Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, which by a long shot puts Kentucky as having the two best senators, in my opinion. Any other? I got a couple minutes, I think. Any other specific questions, topics, something that people wanted me to talk about? We got like 10 minutes. Be happy to talk within reason about anything. Four Nations. Saw that. I just want to congratulate our 51st state, Canada, for winning the NHL Four Nations. It's nice when America pulls one out, and so to have our 51st state win. I mean, imagine that. Just one of our states beat all three of those other countries. Pretty impressive. So that's cool. In all seriousness, no, I did get to watch the third period in overtime. When I was young, I never got to see Mario Lemieux in his heyday live. I did see him probably circa 2003. I think I saw him. I think Crosby's first year, I saw him playing with Lemieux live. But that was clearly Lemieux had been, he had cancer, he was older. And obviously I never saw Wayne Gretzky. But games I would go to in their heyday of Crosby and Malkin, when they would be on the ice, it's like electric. Even when they don't have the puck, you could just tell, even amongst the best in the world, these guys are incredible. And that's what Connor McDavid's like. Like when you see Connor, like he scored the game-winning goal for Canada. When you see him on the ice, it's just like, it looks like everyone's playing in slow motion. And every time he gets it, you hold your breath. You're like, oh, like it's, he's that good, man. I don't know that he will ever surpass Crosby as being statistically or talent-wise, dominant-wise, the face of the NHL. But he's good. He's very good. And it's neat to see. I love watching talent like that. If I could pick an opponent for DebateCon 6, who would it be? Cenk! Mehdi Hassan. That's who I wanted to be. Joe Biden for an easy victory. Pisco would be fine, I guess. I've debated him so many times. It would be nice to debate someone with a bigger platform that was a good debater that you can get a good debate out of. I would like that. So like a Sam Cedar or something like that. Yeah, you're right. Who said that? A. Reed. Yeah, man, watching Skeens pitches, that's like breathtaking too. You feel like you're watching something historic. I haven't seen him live yet, so I haven't gone to a game and saw Skeens. But for DebateCon, I may debate Destiny. I'd probably bring up the accusations, though. I don't know. Just how I feel in the moment, I guess. But well, the problem with Pisco, the strategy that makes him quote-unquote effective doesn't really work on me all that much, which is like the high-intensity interrupting and shit, because I could do it just as well as him. And if you watch me and Pisco a lot, oftentimes what happens is after like the first hour or so, it sort of de-escalates. And then he doesn't do as well. Well, I think he does better, in my opinion. But I think to his audience, he doesn't do as well. I get accused of gish galloping, so, what am I going to say? Have a good day, Rob. Answer yes or no, right? Yeah, Pisco, I don't think looked good in that debate I had with him. If you watch the full 4 hours, I mean, he ends up arguing in enviable positions. Like, well, voicing war against Trump's team wouldn't necessarily be detrimental. It could be helpful to them. Bro. Come on, dude. That'd be like me saying, well, if you really think that there was a quid pro quo from Trump to Zelensky to harm the Bidens for political reasons. No, he was just trying to help them because he knew if they investigated Hunter more, they would have been found innocent. You think Pisco would buy that shit for a minute? For a minute, do you think he would buy that? Yeah, Trump was trying to get a political prosecution or political investigation into the Bidens, but to help them. It wasn't to harm them because he knew they'd be found innocent. Get the fuck out of here. It's silly. But those are the positions he's forced to. I mean, you saw I debated tomfoolery there the other day. I'll have to watch that. I'll have to review the AJW Pisco thing. My gut feeling is that Pisco probably had more specifics and details on things, but that he was an asshole. And so optically it's going to look really bad for him. That'd be my guess. Just of the small 5 minutes I saw and knowing Sean and Pisco, that's my guess of what happened. But maybe not. People are saying no. I'll review it and be as honest as possible. That's all I could do. So, but I've only, like I said, I watched like 5 minutes of it and just heard Pisco cursing the whole time. Do a watch party. Well, I'll probably just do a debate review and allow people to watch or watch with people. Brianna, whoa, debate Brianna. I thought that was funny. Ryan last night was saying about how good faith Brianna is. Brianna is smart and that she realizes as a trans activist that the tea leaves are showing that the trans activist shit went too far. But she hasn't changed her opinion. All of a sudden there's an epiphany. Oh yeah, we should stop transitioning children. Oh yeah, maybe biological men shouldn't be compete in women's sports. No, it's just political strategy. Also, I need to get a hold of Andrew Wilson. I think we're going to start doing like a weekly show. Yeah, but Buddha, I don't think my editor will appreciate if I'm constantly using pronouns that have to be edited out. So most of the time, begrudgingly, I'll say what I have to say. Yeah, I think me and Andrew are both funny, and it would be a fun weekly project. It'd help me. I'd probably get more viewers. The thing about Andrew and me is we argue against each other as much as we argue against others. Because even though we agree with 90% of shit, the 10% we disagree, we're both stubborn, mule-headed assholes. And so we're going to argue about that more. You know? But I think it'd be entertaining. Think about who'd be a great debate for me. I'll think about it, Grid. And if anyone else has any opinions, put it in the comment section of the video when the video's done. If you have anyone that you'd like to see me debate. Well, it's like me and Fabian Scott. How many times have me and Fabian been like, yeah, we're just going to do a stream and talk about this issue, and we end up screaming about fucking ANCAP for an hour and a half. I thought Casimir would have like physically tried to beat the shit out of me one day. I was arguing with Scott. He's like, I like you, but this is the most bad faith fucking shit I've ever seen, Rob. Blah, blah, blah. Anyone alive or dead that I would want to debate? Christopher Hitchens. He is sort of the person that got me into online type debate stuff. I thought he was amazing. Even if I didn't agree with him with everything. I loved watching Hitchens debate. You know, and there are people, Douglas Murray in that vein would be fun to debate. And crush me. Those people would crush me. Don't get it twisted. I'm very like, I don't know. I'm realistic. It was one of the things that set me apart, I think, in policy debate when I did it in college that made me good. I wanted to know. I wasn't like someone who grew up with all of these people that I ended up debating at the highest level. You have to understand, most of them debated at private schools in high school, most of them even junior high. So they debated for like 6 years in high school. Then they went to prestigious universities on scholarships and were debating at the highest level. So they all kind of, it'd be like being a high-level college football player. Probably the other people that are really high level, even if they're at different schools, you know. I didn't know. I didn't debate at all in high school, and then in the 4 years that I debated, I started at the lowest level, and it took me 3 years basically to work my way up to the highest level. So by the time I was there, I knew the people in our district, but that was it. So I would always ask my coach, like, are these guys better than me? And at first he would give the old, oh, no, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, just be honest. Because to me, that helps, right? Think of it in any activity. Like, for example, if you're playing football and the other team is just supposed to be better than you, well, then you might take more chances. Maybe you go for it on fourth down when you usually wouldn't. Because you're like, well, I got nothing to lose. I got to leave it all on the line, right? Chess would be another thing. If you know that you're worse than your opponent, you might mix it up. Instead of just following a line that everyone knows, you might do some crazy shit. Try to muddle up the board, right? It's the same in debate. You know, so I've always been pretty realistic. I would be able to tell you, and my coach was good. He'd be like, yeah, these guys are better. This is like a top team in the country. They're better than you. And I'd be like, okay. You know, and I've won some of those rounds. You know, the tippy top, like the top 10 teams in the country, I don't know that I ever beat anyone of that level. And they, you know, those are people that if I debated 100 times in policy debate, they would beat me 99 times. But the level below that, maybe leave out the top 10 or 15 teams, then you go to the next batch, like the next 30, I could beat them, you know, maybe a quarter of the time. And then I fell into the branch where we were probably a top 100 team. The top 72 teams in the country get qualified for the national debate tournament. We qualified for that, so we were probably in the lower end of the top 100 teams. Like me and my partner, maybe like 80th best team in the country or something. But I think it's nice to be realistic. Anyways, I bring it up because, like, if I debated Christopher Hitchens, he's realistically, that guy has such a fucking historical knowledge. He's so persuasive. He would probably beat me in a debate, but that's okay. I would love it. I would thoroughly love that. I'm trying to think. I would love to debate Mike Tomlin on why the fuck he should be fired from the Steelers. But yeah, I mean, Destiny, I think I've done very well against Destiny. There was one debate I had with them where I thought I could reasonably see people thinking Destiny won. That was the second time I think that I talked with him. But other than that, I think every time I've debated him, obviously I'm subjective, but I think I've done very well and would think that I got the better of him. Obviously, it's going to look the opposite because his audience is far bigger than mine, and they're all going to say, almost no matter what, that he won. But that's how I feel. The same with Pisco. There have been some times that I'm like, Pisco had a good point there. He got something good there. But most of the time, I think that I'm pretty handily. Like, the last real debate I did with Pisco was the panel before the election on Trump versus Kamala. I didn't think it was close. That was where Andrew Wilson was on it. I think Andrew would admit that I was the strongest voice on our side there, but that's not really Andrew's forte, debating policy like that. I don't even think it was close. Can you guys hear me? Sorry, I got a call. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Now, when you're streaming on the phone, okay, you can hear me now. Yeah, I'll head out here soon. Work's calling me. So, have there's ever been a streamer that I thought I lost to? The one time I debated Pisco on the Derek Chauvin trial, I thought I did very well the whole debate. Though at the end of the debate, I thought he had a point that he won that ultimately, if I was judging the debate, would have said Pisco won. And that was, for me as a jurist, I would have said Chauvin was not guilty because if he was trained in techniques that included the technique that he did, then as a jurist, I would have said, I don't know how I can find him guilty. But Pisco is correct in that for whatever fucked up crazy reason, the judge instructed the jurist that that wasn't a defense. So if I just have to say, basically, do I think that killed him? As a jurist, I'd probably say, yeah. So I did not know that, and I thought that that was a salient point. There was a guy that called in, used to call in a lot, I forget his name. It was not a debate, it was a conversation, but then it transitioned into him wanting to debate religion, and I'm not a big religion debater. And he was coming at it from, I think, an atheist or an agnostic point of view, and he's just citing scripture like crazy. I don't do that. I can't cite scripture. So I think I looked real bad in that conversation because this dude's just citing scripture left and right. I'm trying to think other times. There's not a lot. There are times that I can admit, like, that person did pretty good. I could see an objective person saying they thought either of us would have won. But there's very rarely where I think I just get my ass kicked. And I'm biased because I'm me. But I don't know. I wonder if you think Jim Bob had me? I don't think so. I think even Jim Bob would acknowledge, he even said at the end he needs to do more research and think about it more. I think a lot of people think Jim Bob won because they're predisposed from believing his side. But he needs to do work because there's a lot of problems that he has with it. I mean, if you could get someone to admit, right, basically admit, hey, I have to change my definition or my argument, probably a good sign that you did pretty good in the debate. You know, at the end of that conversation with Pisco the other night, he's like, yeah, I have to change what my definition of corruption is. Probably a good sign that I did pretty well in that conversation. Predisposed, hysterical cope. So, no large-scale growth, but you can't acknowledge my shortcomings. What does that mean? Of course I acknowledge my shortcomings all the time. Asking when I've been blown out in the debate's a different question, and I gave examples when I thought I didn't win. So, all right. Anyways, I got a work call, so I'm going to go. I think I'm going to be clocking back in here in a few minutes, so I will see you all Monday or Tuesday. Thank you so much to everyone who donated. No, I didn't say only 2 failures. I said those are 2 times off the top of my head where I objectively think I lost. Most people objectively think they won, or at least subjectively think they won because they're them. For example, all of us have arguments that we think are good arguments, and chances are you're making the arguments that you think are good arguments. So most of the time, you're going to think that you won the argument because you're the one making the arguments, which you already think are good. This is cope. Well, 100% cope. Have a great weekend. Great sport. Thank you. So we'll talk to you all soon. It's great hearing from you. As always, have a good one.